Hello everyone and welcome. It is Tuesday, so here I am live with you. We're going to talk about today how to move beyond feeling overwhelmed and strategies to regain control. Whether we believe it's achievable, where we all crave a balance in our lives, and sometimes we can take on too much or have too much that we want to do, or I don't know if it's too much that we want to do. We have a lot of things that we want to do, and sometimes in that it makes us feel paralyzed. So we can feel like we can't do anything because there is just so much to do, right? So that'll hold us back. We're ambitious and we want to accomplish a lot in our lifetime. How can we do that if we stay in that overwhelmed feeling or that overwhelmed state of being? Hi, I am Lisa and welcome to my show. We're here for the human experience, where I help people shift their mindsets, embrace their inner wisdom, and create healthier lives. And this is episode 21, which I made a commitment to myself to go live every week. So here we are, 21 weeks. So how do we even change the feelings of overwhelm, and where do we even start, right? First step is acknowledging that we are overwhelmed. We need to acknowledge that we're having emotions and things are going on. So we want to identify what is overwhelming us. First, we need to know that we're feeling that. Then we want to identify what is overwhelming us, whether that's people, places, or things. It's okay. We don't need to judge it either. It's just to identify it. And when we do that, when we allow, when we recognize that we are feeling overwhelmed and we're feeling stressed out, that recognition right in that moment when I say, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I don't need to announce it to the room. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But if I just acknowledge it within my own self and say, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed, that brings my energy back into me. It slows my mind down. It allows me to take a few deep breaths. And essentially it is moving us out of that energy of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So when we are in this state, that fight, flight, or freeze, or in the overwhelmed state, we have trouble thinking. Everything potentially seems more significant than it is. We are running away or ignoring as best as we can. We fight against ourselves, and we may even bow down to our self-talk, our negative self-talk, our criticism and judgment. Does that sound familiar? I've been there, done that. It's just about recognizing that we're doing that, right? There's no judgment. Like I've said in many other videos, we're not here to judge ourselves anymore. We're not. We're here to recognize that we're having some stressors, some emotional stressors, some physical stressors. That awareness helps to bring our energy down and move us out of fight, flight, or freeze. So how do we change this repetitive feedback loop that we have going on with these feelings of overwhelmment, right? Well, what do? We ask ourselves questions. That doesn't have to be overwhelming either. It's just, you can set a timer, probably 10 minutes. But it's just bringing in that awareness of, I am feeling overwhelmed. And I also want to recognize, because we have these vibrational patterns, we have these beliefs. So when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I fill in the blanks. I'll give you a few examples. I eat, I cry, I clean, I scream, I yell, I isolate, I procrastinate, I lose focus, my body starts to hurt, and there's so many other things, but it is our body, and it's really our body's way of telling us to pay attention and ask ourselves questions, to connect in with ourselves, to build that, to build the engagement with ourselves, right, through asking our questions. Some of the other things that you can ask yourself, does this feeling, people, places, or things, energy, does that happen often? And if it is, then that's a nice, okay, then that's your definite guide. This happens often, so this is something that I want to look at. Because if it doesn't make me feel good, then I want to change it. And you have to be honest with yourself too, because your ego mind is going to come in there with a yip, yap, yap, yap. You have to be honest with yourself and say, shh, ego, I get that you're trying to protect me, but I'm looking for my guides, my higher self, my answers from him, me, excuse me. So I want to be honest. So if I'm feeling, when I feel overwhelmed, I start to eat, or I'm more of a cleaner, procrastinator as well, right? When we're feeling overwhelmed, it just feels like, oh, not feeling like doing anything. So we want to be honest with ourselves, because when we're honest with ourselves, then that gives us the opportunity to change, right? If we don't know what is going on, or our ego is making all these excuses and blaming other people and whatever our ego does, that whole round and around at times, it can do that. So we want to just be honest with ourselves and ask ourselves, what am I thinking and what am I feeling and what is going on right now that I'm feeling so overwhelmed? Hi, everyone. So the next thing you want to ask yourself is, what is my go-to? So when you're feeling overwhelmed, what do you do? Do you turn on a movie and watch TV? Do you have an app? Like, what do you do? And when you do those things, you want to ask as well, does it make you feel better or worse? It's just an awareness that you're building with yourself. You might want to ask yourself, or if this statement comes up for you, do I wish things were different? The word wish has a funny energy to it, so be mindful of that one, because it kind of pushes everything out into the future and doesn't bring it into the now, right? So if you're wishing things were different, that's up to you to make things different, right? I know I wish for all kinds of things to be different, but ultimately I have to put those things into place if I want life to be different. So here's a few other things you can ask yourself when you are feeling overwhelmed. Is it so a lot of us go into this information overload, which can be social media, news, emails, and other platforms, plus the demands of our daily life. So are we being bombarded with this stuff? So is it, because then that creates like that difficulty to process things, harder to make decisions, and we have a hard time even focusing on what truly matters. And so if we're saying to ourselves, I can't keep up with all my emails, or social media is exhausting, that's an indicator. That's a little flag that says this is something I need to look at. Just take a moment, take a breath, acknowledge that you're feeling this. Are you a perfectionist, right? So we set excessively high standards for ourselves in various aspects of our life, which then can lead to that fear of making mistakes or a constant feeling of inadequacy. And if we're saying, I'm not good enough, or I should be doing better, there again, this is an indicator for you to check in with yourself and see what it is. What should you be doing better? There's always an opposite, right? And should you be doing better? You know what happens when we're shoulding ourselves? Just saying. Overcommitting. Saying yes to too many responsibilities can stretch a person far too thin and make it hard for us to perform in any single area, right? So if we're spread so thin, that makes it difficult. Been there, done that. Or if you're saying, I have too much on my plate, you're the one in charge of your plate. Or another statement, I don't have time for myself anymore. These are your indicators. It's like your check engine light, right? These statements are giving you massive clues to how you're feeling. Life transitions are another one. Unclear goals. I feel like everything's up in the air. I just don't feel settled, right? Life changes. Unclear goals. When you are feeling overwhelmed, it's hard to prioritize any tasks or manage time effectively. And ultimately, the lack of direction leads to procrastination and a sense of that potentially we're just spinning our wheels without making any progress. So ask yourself how you're feeling. A few other things you can be mindful of saying these statements are our self-talk, how we even talk to other people, or how we describe our lives to other people. I'm drowning in my to-do list. right? Or I'm drowning. I feel like I'm drowning. That's where you need to assess everything that's going on in your life or in that situation, what is going on, and ask yourself, what am I actually drowning in? Because it might not be the whole thing. It might be just some of it, right? Another statement that we make is everything is happening at once. There again, bringing in that feeling of overwhelmment. And when we're checking in with ourselves and asking, what is everything that's happening at once? Why do we feel that way? It really is asking yourself the question. I can't think straight right now. I've definitely said that one. I'm so burnt out. And I just need a break. I feel like I'm failing everywhere and there is no end in sight. So if you're making these statements, your whole being is telling you something about you. And it's asking you to check in with yourself and ask, why do you feel that there's no end in sight? Right? What is on your plate that you can take off or delegate or shift out, or does it even need to be on your plate? Right? When people are feeling so overwhelmed, they express their feelings through specific statements or sentiments that reflect their inner turmoil and stress. I've been there. You've probably seen people do the same thing. You've probably done the same thing. And so when these statements resonate with you, notice how your emotions respond and assess where you can make the changes. It doesn't mean that you need to make large sweeping changes. It just means to take a moment, set a timer, 10 minutes, right? Even just to ask yourself, how am I feeling? What is going on? And for every statement that you make, there is always an opposite. There is a multitude of possibilities and opportunities to make a new choice and take some things off your plate when you're feeling overwhelmed. What we say tells a story about our struggles. So we can make those changes, such as when we feel overwhelmed. I'm feeling overwhelmed, I just need a moment. So that you can bring your energy back into you, take a nice deep breath, and then refocus. I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need a moment. And that's okay. You can say that. You can say that, right? When we are identifying our struggles, it's getting into it's getting to the root cause of our feelings of overwhelmed, and they can guide us to strategies for relief, such as shifting our mindset and managing our emotions. And it is that by asking ourselves the questions of, how is this making me feel right now? I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I have too much on my plate. What is on my plate? Can I delegate? Can I just take it off, right? Ask yourself the question, and don't feel, which you may, feel guilty for trying to take stuff off your plate. It is a process and a practice to not feel guilty, because if you're one of those people who always just takes things on, it's going to be a bit of a practice to release some of those things and let them go appropriately to where they need to go. You don't always need to say yes. And just because you can doesn't mean you should. So when you're ready to break free of these limiting beliefs and unleash your true potential, and it all starts with your mindset shift and your willingness to challenge your old assumptions, your old beliefs, your how are you feeling? Asking yourself, what am I actually feeling? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Am I procrastinating? Am I stressed out? Am I burnt out? Ask yourself the questions. Notice how you're feeling and just take a few minutes to regroup. Embrace the journey of your self-discovery and see what happens. It's amazing when you start to ask yourself the questions. Your body starts to relax. You feel more clarity, less feelings of overwhelmed. But it starts by a choice. So it's about listening to your body, your mind, and your spirit for that inner wisdom and guidance that we all seek. And it helps bring us back into our body, that makes us feel more connected and grounded. I hope this has given you some insight onto how to manage your feelings of overwhelm. It is questions. It is connecting with yourself and not judging yourself and being kind and compassionate to yourself. If you have enjoyed today's live broadcast, please leave a comment, love it, and share it so that we can reach more people. And if you have any questions about mind, body, or spirit, please, you can either reach out to me through Messenger or through my through my website, lisahydlifecoach.com. Take care, everyone. I will see you next week as we navigate the matrix of our mind, body, and spirit as we live this human experience. We are here for the human experience. Bye, everyone. See you next week.